Hi everyone and welcome back to the Rooted Podcast. Today's guest, Randy Ngo, comes from a restaurant called El Jefe de Pollo, and he's also known as Chef Chino, so you might have seen him on social media. He is a beloved member of the Jane and Finch community and is known for his bold flavors and his amazing chicken sandwiches. You'll hear more about his story in this podcast. Thank you so much for listening in. Okay. Well, thanks so much, Randy, for joining us today. I'm really excited to have you. I know we connected a little bit before we started, but why don't we start a little bit about you telling the audience about kind of how you got to where you are and kind of what you do.
Well, I'm Chef Chino. For those that don't know, I own El Jefe de Pollo. You can find our shop about 5 minutes south of York University. And if you're wondering why I started, it was a great career change for me. I didn't always live this kind of life. I was kind of involved with the streets and some of the wrong people growing up. And this was part of that journey to change that life. Right. Somewhere in my 20s, when I got sick of that, I kind of, sat there and thought with my wife, then my girlfriend, but now my wife. And some family members like, hey man, like I need to figure something out. And like, living on the streets and doing things in the streets is something that it's not going to last, and there's no future in it. Right. So I really started to think in my 20s, like, okay, well, I'm getting older and I can't be fat, grown, and broke and doing nonsense things. So what am I good at? And I always kept thinking, I'm always that guy at every family gathering, every beach party that's like hogging the grill, or if somebody else is cooking, I'll be like, hey man, can you move? You're probably gonna burn all that. Why don't you let me do it? It's gonna be way juicier, way better, man. And I've always been that backseat cooking guy, or backseat driver, but a cook version.
You're like watching over.
Watching over stuff like, hey dude, you gotta man, let me do it, man. So after some thinking, some long thought about it, I did have to spend some time to get into an educational program as part of some of the conditions that I had.
So you went back to school in your 20s?
Okay. So, cool. And a funny part about that is I wasn't qualified.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is you have to have grade 12 math and English education, which English is not a problem, it's the math. And I had to pass and know how to do bed maths and all that. And to be honest with you, man, at that point, I had no idea what I was doing for bed maths. Like I know 10, 50, 20, 100. And that's the kind of math I would work with, right? So I had to actually spend 3 months-ish and visit friends that, changed their life, and, they had to go back and learn math and stuff like that because I was grade 9 dropout,
So you took like an extra course in order to
No, just went to so I messaged all my friends that passed already, and they're already a couple of years ahead of me, like changing their lives and getting into trades like plumbing and contracting and all that kind of stuff, right? And going to Humber and all the other colleges to get their educations. I was like, hey man, like, can some of you guys help me learn bed maths? And at first they were laughing, and then they're like, don't worry, man, I know how you feel. Let me help you out with that. So after some months of going to my friends' houses after they got off work and, like doing exercises with bed maths and stuff.
You learned it.
Yeah, I learned it. And then I went to George Brown and, I passed, and then they sent me a letter and said, hey, you can enroll, pay your tuition and start. With that too, I was one of the top students. So I was really serious from somebody that was a class clown, always in the back of the class, throwing paper airplanes kind of thing, and fooling around and stuff, to like the guy that's going, I know the answer. Like every single time, to the point where the teacher's trying not to look at me. They'll be like, does anybody, Randy? No.
Can we hear
anybody?
Can we hear from somebody else?
That's awesome. I made it to honors. I was actually selected of one of 10 students out of 3,000 students of that year to travel abroad and do my internship overseas.
Oh my goodness, that's really cool. So where, wow, that's so much
Absolutely.
Fun.
So
where did you
I can probably share some of this after the podcast, but so I went to Panama City.
Oh wow.
And it was quite a challenge. So what people don't understand is, people think that it's like when you go on vacation, everyone's like, let's say you go to somewhere in Central America, right? You get the whole Buenos Dias, Buenos Noches, and people speak to you in English, and everything's gravy and sunshine and rainbows. When you work there and live there, it's not the same. You get a little room that you can stay at, but you're responsible for, like, you're buying your own hygienic stuff and
you're kind of embedded
food and stuff
culture.
as well. So I kind of had to learn Spanish on the fly.
Okay, see, that makes a lot of sense.
That was really hard, man.
Yeah, because I was curious about like the cultural influences of the food that you make, because obviously me knowing your
that's why I'm
background.
telling this story, right?
Yeah, that's also really interesting. Yeah, how it all
So
ties together.
the first month was a struggle because I tried to use things like Google Translate and other
Right.
translation apps, and it just didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go to like a clerk and like reiterate what the Google told me to say, and they're like, "Okay, that means what?"
Yes, yeah.
And I'm like, I kind of need to buy this.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was really rough, you know?
But there was a lot of skills that you learned, it seems like,
Absolutely,
right?
right? After some time, you know, Duolingo and some people at the resort that spoke both English and Spanish
Yeah.
helped me learn enough to get by and live,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I learned a lot of recipes
Yeah.
because it's not like what you see here. When you go there, if you walk into like the main market area,
Yeah.
you can get food from some lady that's doing it basically on the floor almost, right? With a
Right.
little setup. And I swear to God, it looks kind of like we probably as Canadians would be like, oh man, that looks kind of not up to standard
Yes,
or
yes,
hygienic wise.
yes.
But man, I'm telling you right now, those are the best tacos you've
Yeah.
ever had, or arepas, or whatever they're selling, man.
Mhm.
So after going through that and trying all those stuff, and then finally returning back home after that,
Yeah.
yeah, I had a catering company first, but it was always in the back of my head. I'm like, I want to open a taqueria.
Yeah.
But
have your
again, I
own
was after college, I went into fine dining, right?
Oh, interesting.
So I didn't right away open the shop. Like
Right.
it was in the back of my head for years actually. So I worked with most of the celebrity chefs in the city, like Claudio at Orangid for a bit. I was the junior sous at North 44, which is no longer a business, but it's part of the McEwen groups.
Okay, cool.
So it's a
Yeah.
really big fine dining chain, group that owns a bunch of restaurants that are in
Yeah.
the fine dining, right?
Yeah. What sorry if you don't mind me asking, what was the interest in fine dining? Like it seems that like your experience up to that point wouldn't have led me to think that you would choose that.
Well, a lot. In the research that I did while during school, a lot of successful chefs,
Yeah.
whether they have a QSR at the end or a fine dining restaurant, they usually started with fine dining to learn all the skills.
Okay.
Because
okay.
fine dining is something that, like, let's put it this way: if you go to a mass production kind of restaurant, they're opening things from a bag because they don't have the time, right?
Yeah.
To actually season and actually take care of the food. They usually open a bag, it's frozen goods, they put it together, put a pretty little packaging on it, and go, here's your food, right?
Yeah.
It's an economic price, and it's good, it's delicious, and here you go, right?
Right.
But you don't really learn anything from that. So I spent good almost a decade, 2-3
Honing in
years
on
here,
those
2-3 years
skills,
here
yeah.
to learn from different types like French, Italian, and all the main premium cuisines out there.
Yeah.
Just to learn like beyond the basics, right? The little stuff that you can't find on YouTube, the little stuff that you got to have the hands-on experience. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And after all those years of gathering it up, I just felt I was ready to go. It's like it's time, you get your wings on and start flying.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I opened a catering company actually.
Okay, so that's what you started with. Yeah.
Yes.
When you
So
after the fine
it was doing
dining.
really well. I was getting a lot of jobs, but then COVID came.
Right, and that definitely put a wrench in that plan. a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
It kind of really hurt.
Yeah.
I had to give that up. And then for 3 months, I was kind of just sitting, doing nothing and depressed, and,
Of course.
I'm an honest guy, I'll admit
Yeah.
it, until this one Windsor trip.
Okay.
This gets interesting,
Yeah.
So I caught my first muskie, by the way. So do you know what a muskie is?
I do not.
It's like this legendary fish that's been around since like probably prehistoric times, or like a sturgeon kind of thing.
Interesting.
Like,
Okay.
and they're like this big, and
Yeah.
and it looks like a dinosaur. Literally, the mouth looks. If you Google it later, it'll look like a dinosaur.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
They say it takes like 10,000 casts to catch one, and it happened to be Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
I believe it's 2020 now.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, me and the buddies and my cousin, we were out in the waters for like 8 hours, and I really wanted that fish, and I was like, we're not leaving till I get it.
Yeah.
And at the 8th hour, there's 15 minutes left before everyone's like tapped out. They're like, dude, we need to eat. Like we're hungry, man.
Yeah.
Like, I get you want the fish,
Yeah.
man, but we gotta go. You know?
Yeah, but for you, it was something deeper.
I'm
right?
like, no,
Something
man,
more
please,
meaningful.
just 15 more minutes,
Yes,
man. And
yeah.
guess what? That 15 minutes, I got it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then here's the part about how I started the Jefe. It's actually tied to this, right?
Yeah.
So on the way back now that I got my fish, I got my, yay, I got it,
Yeah.
Everyone's starving, and we drive back, and the first thing I see is people lining up at Popeyes, right? And it's on the way back, and I'm like, guys, stop. And they're like, no, man, I want to eat this, I want to eat that, I want to eat Greek, I'm like, no, bro. The new Popeye sandwiches came out, the one that everyone's fighting each other over from the U.S. Remember that?
Yes, yeah.
The spicy
There was a
chicken
time,
sandwich and
yeah.
stuff. And I was like, no, we gotta have it.
Yeah, now everywhere has
Now,
a spicy
it
chicken
might have been the
sandwich.
location because
Yeah.
I love Popeyes and I'll still pay homage to them. They're amazing. This is for the record, right? I'm not disrespecting them.
Yeah.
But for some reason, that location, it was like I was biting into a box of Windsor salt. It was
Just
super
so
salty.
Yeah, not good.
And in my mind, instantly, I thought, okay, I'm not working right now. People are lining up crazy for this item.
Yeah.
And then I thought, wait a minute. Well, I'm a classically French and Italian trained chef.
Yeah.
why don't I do my version of these,
Mm-hmm.
but better and premium?
Mm-hmm.
So now remember, we're sitting at home 3 months.
Yeah.
Wife's getting worried now, like, man, you're not finding work. Oh, man.
Was that the same type of cooking you were still doing for your catering company, or was your
No, catering
different?
was just like steaks and pastas and
Okay.
anything premium, right? Like, it's
Oh,
not
interesting.
fast food, right?
Okay.
But remember, we're in a COVID world now.
Yeah.
Remember, it's 2020, 2021 now.
So you made that shift because of the...
Yeah, because I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well, even if I go back into a regular restaurant or catering again, I will always have that barrier,
Yeah.
right? Because at the time, you can only serve 10 guests at a time,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
right? And it's really hard to make money as a caterer. It's not like it's, you know, like you're a shop that can, you know, deal with walk-ins
Yeah,
and stuff like
yeah.
that. Catering, you kind of need to have the volume.
Yeah.
Because when you do catering, people don't have that much of a budget, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
want to spend $10 a head, $15 a head, 20
People
if
aren't
they're-
having gatherings.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
exactly,
happening.
right?
Yes,
And
yeah.
you kind of need like the 100, 200, 300 people gatherings
Yeah.
to obtain enough to be a sustainable wage,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
you know? So yeah, I rolled with it. Before I actually started that, so once I had the idea, before actually going and registering a company and, you know, opening it up, getting insurance and all that stuff like that, I actually did test dummy runs because we're in COVID now.
Like piloting of the...
Absolutely.
Yes,
So
okay.
I called like 20 of my good friends and I made a menu, right? It had all different sandwiches and we didn't do the tacos yet. That was on Cinco de Mayo. So I
Okay.
just wanted to start with the sandwiches first, right?
Okay, yeah.
So I shipped them to everyone and I had different recipes, right? And after like 2-3 weeks of trial and error, because in the beginning it was like, okay, well, because I had to do the business based on Uber. Because at the time,
right.
you couldn't really go to restaurants. Remember, it's still
Yeah,
COVID, so
yeah.
you have to rely on delivery service to actually get sales.
Okay.
So I was thinking, okay, well, these have to hold for at least an hour because your average Uber driver is not going to go there in 30, I guarantee you.
Yes.
Because
yeah.
just to grab the food and then that little delay from finding your restaurant or wherever you're selling out of and,
Yeah.
and you know, parking, this and that, it's already like 20, 30 minutes.
Were you selling out of your home?
No, I had a
Okay,
ghost
okay.
kitchen. No,
Okay, okay.
absolutely not.
That's what I was wondering. I'm like, that's a lot of
It's illegal.
volume. Okay, yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't want to say it like this, and I'm not a hater. Trust me,
Yes,
I'm not a hater.
yes.
But all the people that sell out of their home, guys, you're gonna kill somebody. You don't have commercial equipment. You don't have commercial grading. Just don't do it. It's very bad. There's apps that say that you can do it, but based on the health department's laws, you cannot sell out of your house.
Right, it's very risky.
The only thing you're allowed to sell is confectionery because there's sugars and preservatives that it's not unsafe.
Okay.
But, you know, who knows what people's habits are at home, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Who knows if they have animals at home, right? These things are not allowed in a commercial restaurant.
Right,
so
right. Okay. So
I had to invest a lot of money and, you know, et cetera, to
Yes,
get these
do
things
it the
going,
right
right?
way.
So
Yeah.
the right way. Yeah, so back to this.
You were sending, you were thinking about the amount of time it might take
Yeah,
you to
so,
have the sandwich.
we
yeah.
tried a various amount of recipes until I finally found the right one, which is the one we still use to this day. It's my own custom batter.
Awesome.
Like it's not copied at all. It's
Yeah.
a blend of different flours to keep the crisp and longevity and, you know, good chew to it and all that stuff.
Was that what
right?
they voted for? Like
Yeah, all my friends
the
that
pilot?
I didn't do it on bias. I'm like, which one do you like best? Which one do you like best?
Yes, yeah.
And did it myself, right? And I'm
Right.
like, this is the one.
Yeah.
Okay, so once I finally got it and it could up to 1 hour, still warm, right? And I pretend I was the Uber driver.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, it's time. I still didn't have a place.
Yeah.
Right. So this was the biggest trouble. I didn't have a place, and everything I looked was like, oh man, I can't afford that. Like $6,000 a month right now. I don't have that much money left.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Right. I just lost a bunch of stuff. I lost my old company and lost that shop too, and it was a tough time.
Of course, yeah.
So, you know, after going around and I couldn't find anything, I was kind of bummed out because I'm like, okay, now I have the product.
Mm-hmm.
I know I have the suppliers from my previous company, right? I can just go back to them.
Yeah.
But I don't have a place. So 2 more weeks go by. I get invited to a family barbecue.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Vietnamese people, you know what I mean? And everyone was like, oh man, I hate the COVID, man. And complaining. And then one of the uncles and one of the younger guys were like, we just opened a club.
Oh.
And we have to lock down.
Right.
And right away my brain went, ding.
Okay.
I'm like, hold on. Did you use the kitchen yet? And they're like, no.
Right.
Just open.
Yeah.
Not even allow open.
Yeah.
I went, how about this?
Yeah.
Since you're not allowed to open, and it is a commercial space, can I run my restaurant out of there until COVID's over? And they're like, that's a good idea.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
You know, then we arranged something. We made a little sublease, right?
Yeah.
I put my sign beside
Because it
theirs.
helps them out.
Their
too.
landlord was
Yes,
cool with it too.
Yes, yeah.
Vietnamese landlord, by the way. So
Yeah.
he was like, "Oh, don't worry, man. Yeah,
Wow.
we got you."
Mm-hmm.
So I actually will show you some of those things too later. But since I moved, I kind of removed those posts to make it look more neat and like we have our own shop now.
Yeah.
But it was a really interesting journey.
Yeah.
So
there's tons of
during
things.
COVID, it was like it almost felt like I owned a club. It was really cool, man.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
and you'd come in to get your chicken, and obviously you'd have that huge 6 foot folding table to block you from actually going in
Going
and
in,
sitting
yeah,
down.
yeah.
Because remember, you weren't allowed to sit
Picking up, yeah,
down,
you're going
six
in and
foot
out.
apart, and all those amazing things that only us will remember, and nobody
Yes.
else, because we lived it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and yeah, it would be trippy. You'd walk into a club full of like Hennessy and Azul all over the walls, and
Right.
I would play like modern hip hop, or some nights I'd have EDM, or
Okay.
some nights I'd have soca, and then like I'd change it up so like make everyone happy, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Especially during that time, it's like
Absolutely.
it's more needed than
And,
usual.
and,
Yeah.
and the funniest part about it is because I grew up with a lot of Muslim friends,
Mm.
I decided to make the whole menu halal.
Oh,
Like,
lovely.
when I say everything, it's not just the meat. People get a misconception of what halal is. So haram things hide under a lot of things like people don't understand. Like
Right.
vanilla extract, you
Mm.
need alcohol to make it. That's haram, right?
Mm.
So there's a lot of
Or like
guidelines.
gelatin, those things that are
Gelatin,
made
yep,
out of
because
egg.
it's pork.
Yes,
Yeah, it comes from
yeah.
pork, right? That you can't use and people would kind of overlook.
Yeah.
So the authenticity is not there.
Right.
So I did everything in my power to make sure. And again, like I grew up with a lot of Muslim friends, so I wasn't sure if I can succeed, especially in a COVID time.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure there's no barriers, right? For my
Right.
own friends to support me first,
Yeah.
right? But later on, it ended up being like a huge thing. Like, oh my God, you're like a fried
Yeah.
chicken joint that has halal, and your
very-
tacos, you're one of the only ones. I'm like, oh man, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's very unique and thoughtful, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was difficult to do.
And 8 months of like saving up and some resilience and just keep saving up. I finally saved enough to buy my own place.
Mm.
Right, this is me losing a company and losing a bunch of money and then coming back. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, here's my second shot. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
And I found a little unit right by York.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you're now out of the club space.
Yeah, so we moved
You're
up to
done,
there.
Then you moved out there. Okay.
Absolutely. And it was gonna be either between Keele and Wilson
Mhm.
or that spot. Now
Okay.
that spot, the reason what really grabbed me was the York University crowd.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I'm 5 minutes from York.
Yeah. I mean, that's how we got connected, right? Because one
Yep.
of the, yeah, one
And
of
then
the
the lease was a lot more than the one that I would have got at Wilson. I would say probably even half, right?
Right.
I'm not allowed to speak numbers, but NDAs and stuff. But
Yeah.
just in general, it would have been probably half, right? But the only problem is the unit on Wilson, you have to go upstairs to get to your restaurant.
Right. So like the
You know the
accessibility.
Keele and Wilson area, they got those
Yes.
dual businesses where it's like one's downstairs,
Yeah.
one's
So you're
upstairs.
a little hidden. You're almost
A
like
little
out of
bit
the-
hidden,
yes,
right?
yeah.
And then I thought about logistics. I'm a chef for a long time now.
Mhm.
I know that the harder part is actually the preparation of food,
Mm.
not actually selling the food. Selling food, hey, it's easy, man. You cook it up, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, it's out, right?
Okay.
But
Yeah.
preparation takes hours and hours. Sometimes
Right.
I'd have to go in at like 6 in the morning to get
Mise
food.
en place, correct?
Mise en place. Yes,
Yes.
you know your stuff. So it takes a lot of work to do that.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, man, that's dreading. If I have to go to the warehouse or the food terminal and grab a whole bunch of
You got to
cases
bring
of-
it up every.
Yeah, and
yes,
it's,
all
at the very
yes,
beginning, I
yeah.
didn't have 10 plus staff. It was just me, my best friend, and occasionally my wife when she's not busy with her own business, right?
Right.
So it was really challenging. So I didn't want to put that extra stress on all of us, right? I
Mhm.
knew ahead, like, okay, I wanted to get somewhere that's very simple. The current restaurant I'm at, same one, right? It's just literally the front door and the driveway to the front door is like beside each other. So I can
Yeah.
literally pull up to the front of my door, unload my stuff,
And put
park
it-
my car, and go do some chef stuff, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I chose that.
That's
And
awesome.
before I knew it, as soon as I moved there, I already had the client base. It just went even bigger.
Right.
Because before I was a ghost kitchen, so a lot of people were on the fence about me, like, oh, I don't know, it's not
Yeah.
a real restaurant. I don't know,
Yeah.
right? But actually having my own
solidified it.
logo,
Yes.
actually having my own decor, the way I set it up,
Yeah.
it finally gave that peace of mind to like way more people,
hmm
and that's kind of how I got to here today.
Yeah, that's.
We-
I mean, yeah, amazing. I mean, I've heard. I have a lot of friends in the community and just like positive raves about your restaurant and how good
Thank
the
you.
food is. And I think also they like love the authenticity of
Yep.
like who you are and then what
Absolutely.
you represent for your brand and for your kind of.
So one
Space in
thing
your
I
home.
do with my brand that's very different from a lot of people is I don't really hide much. Now, what I mean by that is like I'm actually like myself half the time.
Yeah.
90% of the time, no choice.
It's really like people really want to see that. Like it's really
Yeah,
disingenuous what you see sometimes on the internet. As you
because
know.
I have
Yeah.
this internal thing that I don't like to be fake.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as possible, I try to be myself,
Yeah.
Unless I mean like some politicians coming by or somebody like superficial that I have to be a little bit more,
Yeah.
I guess you can say well behaved.
Right.
But other than that, I'm really silly, funny. I look at myself like a, Asian Anthony Anderson. if you know
Okay,
who that
okay.
is, a very famous comedian.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, so like I'm a mix of him and like a chef combined, like a Gordon Ramsay combined,
Yeah.
without all the swearing and the bad stuff, you know?
Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
the nicer version
Yes,
of
the
Gordon
nicer
Ramsay.
version. Also,
I
not
mean
the
the chef side of
yes,
things,
yes.
not the profanity, you
Not
know?
the Hell's Kitchen version.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no.
I mean, what is like abundantly clear to me in the story that you shared is that you did, and you had said it, like
Yeah.
adversity, resilience, and even, and I don't think like even people realize like going back to school in your 20s, that's a complicated thing. And then losing everything during a time where everything is shut down, where you don't feel like you have options, that's a really hard thing. And then also going from one thing that you thought you were going to do, catering, to opening your own place, that's another thing.
Two different worlds.
Yeah, so I'm just curious about, and if you can provide any, I guess, advice to like a young person who is thinking about making a hard transition, like what in you ignited that? Like you had to work so hard to learn math again. You had to learn so hard. You had to work so hard to
Absolutely.
learn the skills. Like you worked in fine dining for 10 years to get the skills to do everything else. So just tell us a little bit about like, yeah, what kind of advice you could provide to someone who's maybe thinking about
Absolutely.
making a
So
hard transition.
before we go to the advice, I'll rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
It kind of adds to this. I grew up in Chinatown, so if you know anything about Chinatown in the 80s and 90s, it was a very poor place to be. You'd have a Vietnamese or Chinese lady daily if you're walking on Dundas screaming at you, going $1, very nice watermelon, orange, whatever,
Yeah,
right?
herbs,
And
everything.
the
Yeah.
herbs and everything, and it was a really like community kind of area. And now it's gentrified, and it's like you kind of got to have lots of money to live there to kind of
Yeah.
just get by.
Yeah.
It was a different vibe, and then growing up in that area, I grew up very poor, right? And seeing people around me that didn't have an education or didn't pursue something better in life, I was a kid seeing them as I grew up. They were on the same things.
Right, right.
They were doing the same thing, never excelling in life, and kind of they're gonna be stuck there. And some of them are still there.
Right.
And it's kind of sad, right? Because in Canada, we have such easy access to education and so much beautiful resources that can get you ahead that many people don't have.
Yeah.
And I just really thought to myself, like, hey, man, like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like,
So this was like when you were like doing
well, like, what am I doing? I gotta get this going. I gotta do more for myself.
Yeah.
So that's if there's anything that the young people gotta realize is, don't give up, man. Don't just think because you're in a bad situation or you're from a poor neighborhood just like myself that, oh, you know what, I'm gonna be stuck here forever, or I'm gonna work a factory forever, or I'm just gonna do a dead end job forever. It literally takes, a couple of years of some, putting your head down, focusing, blocking out all the negative stuff, because it's very easy to get people negative in your ear.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to be negative than positive half the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Realistically. But if you can block everything out and just have a positive mindset, I feel that, there's a lot more than a higher chance that you're going to succeed in what you want to do.
Right.
Right? There's obviously a competitive side to every trade and every business and everything you want to do. But if you do those things, you're not going to be at the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's tough growing up in like
especially Jane and Finch, right? Like I did move to the York Gate and Finch area in maybe like the 2010 eras. So for some of the viewers that are familiar with the area, there was a main show at the time. They're no longer there. But yeah, it was a great neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that's why I chose to come back to it. Because that was one of my lowest lows when I lived there.
Yeah.
I chose whatever cheapest basement was available with utilities included.
Wow, right.
That's kind of what I could afford it. Thank God my girl was cool with it.
Yeah.
Because Main Show literally made me survive. And I actually mentioned this on City News before, that it was one of my inspirations for my restaurant. One of them.
Yeah.
Because it was the to-go chicken spot. Everyone in the neighborhood, good quality food. Everyone in the neighborhood knew them.
Yeah.
They had their own little custom ginger Jamaican juices that I loved, you know. And they had this crazy family meal that was like $20. Doesn't exist anymore anywhere because of inflation. But
not in this economy.
imagine for $20, you get a large, and when I say large, they're not cheap and they're not shy. They give you a large box of rice. You get 18 pieces of chicken, which is realistically like 6 pieces chopped down. Like, you know what I mean? But it was still a lot of food, right?
Yeah.
And then one large sauce of choice. So either red sauce or oxtail gravy. And I always went for the oxtail gravy. I'm an oxtail guy, you know?
Yeah.
By the way, we got boneless oxtail on our menu, so that's rare.
Lovely.
Boneless oxtail tacos.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was a huge inspiration for my restaurant. Because I wanted to come back and be like, I want to be a chicken guy in here. I want to make people happy.
Yeah.
Because I remember vividly how happy that meal made me.
Yeah, and I mean, there was such a large, almost like a large group of people who were so invested in Main Show. Like, they loved it, they lived by it.
Yep, day to day.
Yeah, and I really do actually feel that that's very similar to the folks that eat your food. Like, a lot of my friends that I talk to, they kind of live it as well. Like, they're like, oh, you have to try the sandwich, you have to try this. the tacos, etc. So I think that's really cool that you're able to kind of get there and like in a sense, and I don't, you probably have reflected on that and know that yourself.
Yes. Because the same reactions I get from, and like the way, like you said, like the way people give me the compliments and stuff like that, and reoccur and come back and come back, it literally reminded of me being them.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, yes, in my brain, it's not about the money. I succeeded. I made someone happy. They really enjoy the food.
Yeah.
They love promoting the brand. They love it.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I got to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, that's so great. I'm trying to think because I'm imagining on a daily basis, like, and I think there's a lot of like conventional things where you say like positive thinking and not giving up. What does that like? What was that like? What was like a, you know, like, can you tell us about like how you embodied that? Because I think the practicality of what that looks like is very different for everyone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So just curious.
I'm not gonna lie to you,
yeah.
it was not easy.
Yeah.
Because I have like, again, like I'm the second generation of my family, right? Like they came and then it's me that has to go forward. So they have like that old school mindset, like you gotta get some guarantees, you gotta, you know, don't do this, don't do that, you know, don't gamble. Like basically, you know, being a business owner, you're gambling.
Yeah.
For the most part. And
it's risky, yeah.
Yeah, and I just had to like think around that. I'm like, listen, man, the world is changing, and like we can't always think like that. If we always got our tin caps on,
yeah,
no one will go anywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And again, like based on my previous occupation, you know, entrepreneurship was the only answer.
Yeah.
You know, eventually.
Yeah.
And I've already earned the stripes. I've learned how to cook almost every dish, and you know, French and Italian cuisine. And it was time, right?
Yeah.
So I had to go do it.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you get to have your own control of like what you want to do. And I think, you know, for me, I think what I've noticed about you is obviously like cooking ignites you. It's something you're very passionate about. And
Yes.
That's why you liked going to school because of it. Because oftentimes, you know, I teach at the university and like students are forced to do certain things and they're not happy to take whatever courses it is that they're doing because they're not that interested in it. But as you get older, you start to realize what you want to do. So you're able to go back to do something that you're very passionate about.
Absolutely.
So I guess the last question I want to leave the audience with is there, you know, one thing a really big lesson that you learned? I know you talked a lot about different things as you came to where you are now. A big lesson that you have that you can share that was maybe the biggest thing that influenced everything that you've done.
Well, to start, especially in the culinary world, okay, a lot of people are kind of frown upon this, right? But in my opinion, you need to grow yourself. What I mean by that is a lot of chefs, especially the old school chefs, they kind of want to keep you for life, right? Which is not good for you as a chef.
Right.
Your goal is to jump around and not to be like a guy that like unreliable, jump around, but you know, spend some time with somebody. Let them know too. Don't be the guy that just secretly does it to someone because that's not nice, right?
Right, right.
You know, hey, Mr. Chef, I want to work for you. I want to learn some stuff here. I'll be here for like 2 years, 3 years probably. And once I learn everything, I kind of want to go on my way. I'm trying to, you know, build my portfolio and grow in this career. Yeah. You know?
Be transparent with like.
So yeah, don't stay stuck to one place too long.
Yeah.
So I do have friends that are in the hotel industry as chefs and some other chefs that's stuck in the fine dining industry and are still at the same restaurants that I was during college till now. Wow. It's a very long time.
That's a long time, yeah.
And I don't want to say it like this, but they didn't go anywhere because we have those conversations. Yeah. And they get frustrated and stuff like that. So don't limit yourself, right? It's kind of like the whole like, oh, I'm from a bad neighborhood, I'm not going to make it. Yeah. Don't limit yourself. Keep going, right? Yeah. For the business aspect, when you're opening a business, don't be too keen on like, okay, everything's got to be perfect because nothing's perfect. Yeah. Nobody is perfect, actually. Right. So if there's a couple flaws in the way, don't go crazy. Because I did go crazy in the very early days, and that costed me double-digit grands to go crazy over. Right, right. In the early days. Yeah. And then I kind of went, okay, well, that doesn't make sense, right? And
yeah, when you start out early, you don't have much experience. You're like just freaking out about like everything, right? And you want to control everything. But then as you get more experience, you realize
absolutely
things happen, things ebb and flow. And that's kind of the way life goes. There is actually something else that I was thinking about as you were talking that just came to my mind now.
It's a lot to take in at once.
I was
pretty in-depth, you know.
Yeah, I was actually, well, the one thing that's really big about the series that we're doing on this podcast is about creativity. And I wanted to actually there's a lot of creativity.
Oh, I love this one. Yes. Here we go.
Just curious about like how you use creativity in your entrepreneurship and your cooking, like kind of in your...
Absolutely. So creativity, as we said before, right? Like earlier in this podcast, I was a class clown, you know? So it really helps towards modern day advertising. So we're in a world now that is TikTok and IG driven for businesses,
Yeah, instant
for the most part,
gratification.
right? Social media, but those are the main platforms,
Yeah.
like almost worldwide. And like, I don't want to say this, please, boomers, forgive me, please. I'm so sorry. Um, the traditional ways of advertising just don't work anymore.
Right.
So imagine like a billboard for a famous mall, for
Mm.
example. And I don't want to name names in case we get into some legalities, but
Yes.
some big malls,
Yeah.
big malls,
Big
to
companies.
get a big banner or big thing, plaque or something to be listed there for a month is
Yeah.
somewhere upwards between $5,000 to $20,000
Oh my goodness.
for a whole month straight.
Yeah, I had no idea.
When you drive by traffic, Nancy, do you pay attention to any of those?
No, unfortunately.
Sorry,
Yeah.
better question. Mr. 123 agent, we'll give you the best mortgages. Are you
Yeah.
calling that guy?
Yeah, no.
You probably saw someone from social media if you're going to go for it,
Right,
or
right.
a family referral or word of mouth or something
Yeah,
like
and I
that,
always
right?
thought you should be paying attention to the road, right? Anyway.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, guys, that's way more important, but yes, right?
No, but
Yeah,
yes,
no one has time for that, right?
Yeah.
And you're a Vietnamese person, so a lot of traditional old advertising, we would use Toi Bao. You know, the Vietnamese newspaper.
Yeah.
And even in the Vietnamese community, they're starting to realize that that doesn't really work anymore. Why am I
Right.
paying you guys so much money for ads? And it's not their fault. It's just the economy. And the people in the world have changing. Everything's changing, right?
Yeah.
To the point where I believe Now Magazine is no longer in business. They sold, right?
Yeah.
Is right?
Yeah, print media is no longer existing.
Yeah,
Like People Magazine, all these magazines
because
no longer exist.
the whole tradition of going to the subway, grabbing your Now Magazine or your Toronto Star, or
Yes.
a lot of them actually moved over to online. Almost every single one of them that are still around have like a online platform,
Yeah.
an app that's very simple to use. That anybody, any Tom, Dick, or Harry, anyone's grandmother, mother, sister, brothers, you know what I mean,
Yes.
can use it no problem, right?
Yes, yeah.
Very user friendly, like almost like an iPhone. Everything's very easy now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I feel like it's the most important thing.
Yeah, so that definitely influences the way that you advertise now because like you're
Yep.
away from the
So
traditional
the
ways.
creativeness part of it, I've realized that now here's the kicker. So you can't just go on social media and be like, "Hey, this is what I sell." Nobody looks at that.
Right.
Like you're gonna get 2 views, man.
Right.
Being silly and breaking the ice with comedy is a very important part.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot. Obviously, a lot
Yeah,
of the stuff that you do.
because
yeah.
if you look at some of the most successful restaurants, they do a lot of comedy skits. They do a lot of fun stuff, right? Whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
It's on the more fun side,
Yeah.
right? The traditional, like, chef in the white coat with a giant white hat, that's gone. Nobody really wants to get served by that, right?
Right.
Like, look at Salt Bay, for example.
Like
Like that, the media is what really got him big.
Right.
Right? Like the first time he did this, somebody recorded it and they went, "Shh, dude, that looks crazy."
Yeah, and then it became like a
And
huge
then it
thing
went
after that.
viral, and then
Yeah.
after viral, he had infinite lineups for years to come, and still does.
Yeah, I mean that's great for you because I think that really like the comedy side really aligns with who you are. So I guess it comes more naturally to you.
Yes.
Yeah, because it could
Yeah.
be quite forced for people who like maybe are like
Yeah,
not as
if you're not
comfortable in it.
actually like a funny kind of guy,
Yeah.
or into comedy and like being the class clown or whatever,
Yes.
it's gonna come off when you're recording it as like like fake.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm actually laughing like crazy that like you have to reshoot like 4 or 5 times on a scene.
Yes.
Half
Yeah.
the time because I'm like, yo, wait, guys.
When I'm
hold
watching,
on, like
when I'm watching it, I'm like, I don't even know how many times he must.
I kept a straight face,
Yeah,
right?
especially if there's like more than one person. I'm like, they definitely had to do
Oh
some
yeah,
takes.
and I don't stop there. Like I have 2 music videos out, guys. I remade Sexy Red's "Get It Sexy," called it "Get It Crispy." Get
Oh
it crispy, and then I remade an old Scooby for the older generation too, from the franchise.
Oh my goodness,
boys.
I had no idea.
Yeah, that one's called Drums and
Yeah.
Flats.
Are you also a musician?
No, but I have a lot of friends that are rappers.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
But
so
that's
you're
for
just-
another time.
Yes, okay. Oh, that's lovely. So I mean, a little bit of creativity in like the way that you brand your items, but like I guess in cooking, there's a bunch of creativity as well. You
Absolutely.
probably
So
test recipes. all
one
the
thing
time.
I have to mention now, I'm pretty salty about this.
Mm.
A lot of people copy me in the city. You know who you are.
Right.
So there's many, by the way. So
Greatest
that's
form of
why
flattery. Greatest form of flattery. Right?
it is, but it's also
imitation.
annoying
Yes,
because it
yes.
takes a lot of time for as a chef to recipe development, right?
Yeah.
And lots of money too, because
Yeah.
if it fails, you gotta keep making it, keep making it. So once I realized that happened, I started doing something really funny. Every 2 months, or even 1 month, if I'm feeling really sporadic, I release something so out this world.
Oh,
like
really?
I'm gonna pull one out for you. I did a mochi donut and chicken. So
I saw that.
instead of chicken and waffles, which I already
Yes.
have,
Yeah.
I went, let's go Japanese. Mochi donuts and chicken.
I was like, this is so genius because like mochi
The
donuts
texture
were huge.
wise.
They were huge, and it just in the community, like for Asians, like it was just. I was like, this is.
And not
Yeah.
just Asians, right?
Yeah.
Because I have all walks of life come to my store.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
when
of
I'm like, hey, listen, man, do you want to try a Japanese and North American fusion food? Like, it's
Yeah.
a new special. Like,
Mhm.
what is that? It's a mochi donut and chicken. So you
Yeah.
get fried chicken with hot honey on it, and then you get a sweet maple donut in the bottom.
Right,
Very
right.
Canadian
Yes,
too.
yeah.
So much different cultures in one, you know?
Yes,
That's
yeah.
what Toronto's all about.
Yeah.
And it every time I made a new feature, it took off.
Mhm.
Like I have a new one called Land and Sea right now, and it involves Texas style, 48-hour smoked, bone-in
Wow.
oxtail.
Yeah.
And the reason why I call it Land and Sea is because it also gets fried shrimp as the breadcrumbs to the bottom of your mac and cheese.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Very
it's
creative.
very
That's cool.
comfort
Yes,
food.
yeah.
But yeah, like I do things like that because I do some research. I'm like, okay, well, Texas style barbecue is not available here.
Mhm, mhm.
It typically does well when someone does a pop up.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do this with my own twist.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever even like heard of oxtail in that cooked in that way. Like,
Yep.
yes.
It's
so
always a Caribbean style, which I
Yes.
love. I
Yes.
really love. But smoked has a whole different vibe. It's a whole different
Right.
item, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of people appreciate that because no one really has 48 hours to baby and watch something.
Yes, yes, of course.
We have
yeah.
machines for it. That's what I meant by you can't do it at home. Like you need a
Mm.
commercial equipment for it. So it's safe and you don't burn your house down too. Because
Yeah.
leaving something with fire unattended for 48 hours, hell no.
Yeah, yeah, very dangerous.
It's
Yeah.
very dangerous.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so you're able to. I mean, it sounds like, and it seems like you have like a lot of fun creating these ideas.
Absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely.
yeah. And do you work with like a sous chef, or do you do everything?
Yes, I
yourself?
do have a sous chef.
Yes.
It's my guy Mikey. If you
Yes.
watch this, I love you, brother.
Go, Mike.
It's a really funny story about my sous chef. I picked him up and he was a cashier somewhere.
Oh,
Came to
really?
me and went, I want a job. I went, you know how to cook, man?
Mm.
It's like, not really, but I can learn. I'm like, I'll give you a chance, man.
Yeah.
And hey, man, he could run my restaurant. Like, see, my restaurant's running right now. He's working right now.
Wow.
And I'm here.
Yeah.
So in my absence, he's grown to that man that I can proudly call my sous chef.
Yeah.
And it could be the craziest week. We can have like 6-7 caterings that are like, a couple hundred people each. The restaurant busy as heck, with a big lineup and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And we know as a team, we're able to pump all that out, right?
Yeah.
Get everyone happy, and get all their food to them in the timely manners, like for the catering jobs. And
Yeah.
on a regular guest day to day, right? We typically have a 10 to 15 minute turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
One thing about a restaurant is we do fresh to order food. So there's no box that we kind of cook the food and, hey, you want food? Here, 2 minutes, here's your food. So I like to let people know that, hey, if you do enjoy our food, you don't got time to wait, just pre-order.
Yeah. Yeah.
Call us ahead.
Yeah.
We know who you are now, kind of thing. And then we're happily make your food for you for the time you would desire to come pick it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of restaurants, they don't do what we do. So let's say they do get a pre-order.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I want, whatever. I'll be there like in 30 minutes. Your typical restaurant will literally go, boys, start making this. And then it will kind of just sit there on the counter.
Yes, yes.
And then you'll get a stone cold brick of food,
Yeah,
which
'cause it don't have to be
nobody
transported,
enjoys,
yeah.
right? Like sitting on the pass, getting colder and colder and colder. So after we take the initial calls, we kind of just go, okay, well, Mr. A is going to be here in 30 minutes. So that means it takes about 10 to 15. We're going to start this at the 15-minute mark. Get that 5 minutes grace. So let it cool down too, actually. Because, fresh out the fryer or the oven, it's going to burn
it's
you,
gonna be
right?
hard to eat. Yeah.
So that 5 minutes is okay to have,
yes.
right? But anything past that, it starts really deteriorating the quality of food.
Right.
And I've always been a guy of quality, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if I put something out, my name's on it.
Mm-hmm.
I got to give you some quality.
Yeah.
I can't just do what every Tom, Dick, and Harry's doing. Just give you some food and put a price tag on it. And here you go.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the guy I want to be, right?
Yeah.
So I took pride in my food, and I know it's a QSR, but it's a gourmet QSR.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is QSR?
QSR stands for quick service restaurant.
Restaurant. Okay. I was like,
So it differentiates between like a fine dining restaurant, sit down and it's got the whole all the service with it. We're to go but gourmet, so you kind of still get service, but to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And super gourmet food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, amazing. And I think that's like a great kind of way to end off. But thank you so much for sharing your story and like how you got to where you are. It really sounds like, obviously, like I said, you're very passionate about what you do, and the community is very lucky to have you. I know that offline we talked about your philanthropy and also like your volunteering and everything you kind of do for the Jane and Finch community. So we're really happy and glad to have had you on here today. So thanks.
Thank you. And I'm going to close off with, listen, especially the youth there, don't ever let anybody tell you you're not going to be successful. Don't let anybody ever tell you you can't do this job. With the right amount of push with yourself, you're going to make it. Trust me. All right?
Love it.
All right, guys.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.